Congestive heart failure, or CHF, is a leading cause of death in the U.S., with an average of 5.1 million cases per year. Signs and symptoms of this condition include shortness of breath, fatigue, diminished tolerance to exercise, and swollen lower extremities. CHF patients exhibit general water retention, particularly fluid in the lungs or congestion, which can manifest as obstructive sleep apnea during the night. Obstructive sleep apnea is most easily characterized by patients as periods of cessation of breath while sleeping and low oxygen blood saturation recorded via SpO2 monitoring. Pulse oximetry is a convenient and non-invasive method for monitoring a person's oxygen saturation. Our sensor combines pulse oximetry with accelerometer data, allowing the user to track sleep apnea symptoms as a tool for monitoring progression of CHF and gathering patient information for a clinician to establish correlations with efficacy of treatment. The user begins by attaching the sensor to their finger and by hitting Start on the Sleep Monitor app. The app starts monitoring sensor data while the user sleeps. When the user wakes, he or she will be able to review their quality of sleep during the night and whether any sleep apnea episodes were detected. This is the home screen. The user can begin monitoring immediately by hitting the Start button on the Sleep Monitor function. Sensor data from the pulse oximeter and accelerometer will start being sent to the smartphone and will be continually analyzed through the night. The user can stop monitoring when they wake by hitting the Stop button on the app. The user can review past history with the app by navigating to the Check History menu option. This option provides a summary in the form of a nightly report, where post-processed pulse ox and accelerometer data will be presented in a summarized format, with information on sleep and wake times and whether sleep apnea episodes were detected and their severity. From the menu, the user can set other preferences, like toggling whether they want to view the more detailed clinician's report. A clinician's report will also be generated in an exportable HTML format with more detailed information on the patient's symptoms. Note, this format can be opened outside of the app. The clinician can click on More Info to view the raw data streams if desired. This report includes the information given to the user, as well as other statistics like SpO2 levels and whether the patient exhibited other symptoms associated with CHF, like increased movement from difficulty breathing. Identifying and quantifying periods of sleep apnea is indicative of efficacy of CHF treatment. Low baseline SpO2 levels serves as a warning to clinicians. The lower the SpO2 value, the higher the probability and severity of acute heart failure.
Here is a simulated data stream that would appear as it is recorded by the pulse oximeter. The green windows, as indicated by the window labeled number 1, are true periods of sleep apnea, where oxygen saturation slowly decreases as the patient stops breathing before the patient stirs a second, as seen in the accelerometer, and they resume breathing as oxygen saturation returns higher. The window marked number 2 is an example of a motion artifact given while the patient moves, as there can be some noise introduced in the oxygen saturation as caused by movement. These can be screened out by the presence of this motion along with irregular periods of oxygen saturation. The blue window is a period where the patient has stirred, as seen by the accelerometer, but there's no change in oxygen saturation. Perhaps the patient is not sleeping as well as they could and have just tossed and turned in their sleep. The purple window shows a decrease in oxygen saturation without a change in the accelerometer. This could be perhaps the patient stops breathing for only a moment, or perhaps there's another source of noise, such as light hitting the sensor, given that pulse oximetry uses the presence of infrared light at its sensor. By combining these two sensors, both the oxygen saturation through the pulse oximeter and the acceleration through the accelerometer, we're able to better quantify how many periods of sleep apnea as well as how long of time that the patient is spent not breathing, by being able to screen out possible adverse events and package the data more neatly. This is also important for portable pulse oximeters, given that there's a limited amount of memory and battery, and so the device can make sure only to transmit data when it detects a true event and to screen out possible noise.